There is a strange paradox about freedom. The people who claim to want it most are often the people most controlled by what they desire. They call it ambition. They call it passion. They call it love. But sometimes, desire is simply a chain that feels good while it is tightening. Rochefoucauld understood something uncomfortable about human nature. We rarely lose control because someone forces us to. We lose control because something inside us wants to be controlled. And that creates a dangerous question. If you removed the things you secretly crave, approval, status, attention, admiration, revenge, possession, would you still recognize yourself? Watch closely, because there are 3 desires most people mistake for freedom. The first hides behind ambition. The second hides behind relationships. The third hides behind self-improvement itself. And the third is the most difficult to detect because it can make slavery look like discipline. But near the end, we will reach the deeper revelation. The strongest person is not the one who gets everything he wants. It is the person who can look directly at desire without immediately obeying it. And once you understand why, the people around you become much easier to read. Number 1. The desire you call freedom. Most people imagine freedom as having more choices, more money, more attention, more relationships, more influence, more options. But there is a hidden contradiction. The more things you need in order to feel satisfied, the more things can control you. A person who needs constant praise is controlled by the audience. A person who needs status is controlled by comparison. A person who needs revenge is controlled by the person who hurt him. The cage is invisible because the prisoner believes he is choosing. Modern technology has made this mechanism almost impossible to notice. A social media notification arrives, and your hand reaches for the phone before your mind has formed a decision. You call it habit. The platform calls it engagement. The deeper truth is that desire has learned to move faster than consciousness. Rochefoucauld's insight into self-love becomes especially sharp here. People can disguise dependence as independence. Someone may say, "I don't care what anyone thinks," while checking every reaction in secret. Someone may claim to be pursuing success for themselves while measuring their worth against strangers they will never meet. And that creates the first twist. Sometimes, the person who looks the most ambitious is simply the person most desperate to escape the feeling of being insignificant. But if desire can disguise itself as freedom, what happens when it disguises itself as something much more noble? Number 2, when ambition is really hunger. Consider 2 executives entering the same boardroom. Both want the promotion. Both work late. Both speak confidently. From the outside, they look identical. But internally, they are completely different. One wants the responsibility. The other needs the title. That distinction changes everything. The first can walk away if the opportunity becomes corrupt. The second cannot, because losing the position would feel like losing himself. This is where desire becomes strategically dangerous. The object is no longer the problem. Dependence on the object is. In modern business, people often say they want growth. But growth can become a socially acceptable disguise for insecurity. A founder raises another round not because the company needs it, but because someone else just raised more. An employee accepts another promotion despite exhaustion because stopping would mean admitting that the previous sacrifice was enough. Even artificial intelligence has intensified this comparison. Everyone can now produce faster, publish more, and compete globally. The result is strange. Technology gives people more freedom, while simultaneously creating more reasons to feel behind. The twist is that achievement can increase desire rather than satisfy it. The successful person does not necessarily become free. He may simply acquire a more expensive cage, and once the cage becomes expensive enough, he will defend it as if it were his identity. But there is another form of desire that is even harder to recognize, because it arrives wearing the face of love. Number 3, the trap hidden inside love. We like to believe love makes us selfless. Sometimes it does. But sometimes what we call love contains possession, validation, fear, and the desperate need to be chosen. Imagine someone constantly checking whether their partner has replied. They say, "I just care," but remove the response for 12 hours, and anxiety appears. The problem may not be love. It may be dependence on reassurance. The same pattern appears in friendships. Someone gives endlessly, but secretly keeps a ledger. They remember every favor, every unanswered message, every invitation they were excluded from. Then one day they say, "After everything I've done for you." The generosity was real, but so was the hidden transaction. Rochefoucauld repeatedly examined the uncomfortable gap between what people believe motivates them and what actually moves them. That gap is where self-deception lives. Modern relationships expose it constantly. People say they want honesty, but sometimes what they really want is confirmation. They say they want a strong partner, but secretly want someone who never threatens their ego. They say they want freedom, but become disturbed when the other person actually exercises it. And here's the twist. The desire to be loved can make a person behave in ways that make genuine love impossible. The more desperately they demand proof, the less freely the other person can give it. But desire does not stop there. It can enter the mind itself and disguise itself as morality. Number 4. The virtue that wants applause. Here is the psychological experiment. Imagine you perform an act of kindness anonymously. Nobody knows. No one can reward you. No photograph exists. No one will ever hear the story. Now imagine performing the exact same act in front of 10,000 people, with applause waiting at the end. Which version feels more satisfying? Most people immediately want to choose the first because it sounds morally superior. But watch the mind carefully. Even after choosing the first, it may secretly imagine someone discovering what happened. This is the pattern interrupt. Sometimes the ego does not need the reward itself. It only needs the possibility of being seen as the kind of person who deserves the reward. This explains an enormous amount of modern behavior. People announce charitable acts. Companies publish statements about values. Influencers document vulnerability. Professionals display exhaustion as proof of importance. None of this automatically makes the virtue fake. That would be too simple. The darker truth is that motives can be mixed. We can genuinely help someone and still enjoy being admired for helping them. We can genuinely work hard and still crave recognition. Human motives rarely arrive in pure form. The twist is that the desire to appear good can become more powerful than the desire to be good. And once you understand that, you begin to see why some people become addicted not to pleasure, but to their own image. Number 5. The addiction to your own identity. People often believe identity gives them strength. I am disciplined. I am successful. I am the smart one. I am the independent one. These statements sound empowering until reality contradicts them. Then the identity becomes a prison. A person who sees himself as intelligent may avoid difficult questions because looking confused threatens his self-image. A person who sees herself as independent may reject help even when help is necessary. A person who sees himself as morally superior may become incapable of admitting a selfish motive. This is one of the most sophisticated forms of desire. The desire to remain consistent with the story you tell about yourself. Modern politics is filled with it. People defend positions not because every detail remains convincing, but because changing their mind would threaten belonging and identity. Online communities amplify the effect. Once your audience knows you as a certain type of person, changing becomes expensive. Your followers may punish uncertainty. Your own ego may punish it even more. And suddenly, freedom means something different. Freedom is not merely choosing what you want. It is being capable of becoming someone your previous identity would not recognize. But that requires confronting the one desire almost everyone protects.